Hello again, and welcome to episode 8 of Cooking with Grief, the show where two idiots guide you through the labyrinth that is the internet to bring you the juicy, forbidden fruits of knowledge. As always, I'm joined by my trusty co-pilot in this tortured metaphor, the man with a plan, Chris.
That's me, I'm idiot number 2.
Yes, or idiot number... Oh, Jesus, I was going to say idiot number B, which just shows why I'm idiot number 1.
Just proves your point. You've written accurate introduction there.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, on with the show. So, the way this will work is that each of us has found 2 topics to share with you, dear listener, and with each other. And the other Chris hasn't heard either of the topics before. So, without further ado, Chris, will you take us through your first topic, please?
So, Chris, for my first topic, I'm going to start off with a question. Now, you're lucky enough to be in a long-term relationship, but when arguments crop up, are there any specific ways you deal with them? Sort of any strategies for talking things out, without problems escalating faster than a moving staircase?
No, I think as probably most men learn, best to just admit you're wrong and apologise. It's not the best thing. It might not be the
most honest
way, but sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet.
Keep the peace at any cost. That's not like aren't all women nag. It's more just like, this person that I love to share my life with is more important than making a stupid point.
I did read a good thing once that pointed out that most arguments happen because each person is trying to prove that they're right rather than trying to solve the actual problem.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. But I think that's a broader communication thing. It's not specifically about relationships. It's more like any debate or any conversation is best when 2 people are working equally to exchange information on a sort of mutually respectful basis. The reason I ask that is because this week I learned about the fact that in medieval Germany, married couples could legally settle disputes by fighting in what was called a marital duel.
What?
Here were the rules, because obviously you've got to have rules with a marital duel. So the man fought from a hole that was dug deep enough to reach his waist. So he stands in this hole, buried up to the waist. One arm's tied behind his back, and he's armed with 3 wooden clubs.
Okay. He only has 1 arm, though, so how does he wield 3 clubs?
He wields one at once, but he, perhaps gets a... he's got a choice. Yeah, or it flies out of his hand, or he decides, no, I can't go through with this. But it is medieval Germany, so maybe the former rather than the latter. Now, the woman was free to move around the hole unencumbered and was equipped with a sack full of rocks. If the man touched the edge of the hole, a judge, because obviously you've got to have a judge in these sort of things.
Oh, yeah, you won't want to be a savage.
No, let's keep it, above board. So if he touches the edge of the hole, then the judge removed one of his clubs, and if the woman struck him while he's surrendering a weapon, she loses one of her rocks. I'm sure in this... more enlightened age, there are still plenty of recently divorced women that would happily beat their ex-husbands to death with a bag full of rocks. That's was the bleak part of it, if that, the sort of premise isn't bleak enough. The loser of the duel often was punished to death.
Oh.
If it didn't happen during the duel itself. If the woman won, the man was executed, and if the reverse happened, the woman would be buried alive. Again, it's a comedy podcast.
It seems a bit overly elaborate. I mean, at this stage, you've already dug a hole, given a number of clubs and some very specific rules, beaten a woman to death beaten a woman whilst being half submerged. And then you bury the woman alive. I mean, what sort of marital disputes was this?
Well, it's definitely more decisive than today taking it through a court, either, actual or TV, courtroom judge.
It does sound a bit Jerry Springer.
Yeah, well, it's just Jerry Springer for the medieval age. But, you got to think, what sort of disputes are worth going through that sort of trial? How many of your partner's turnips have you nicked? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and I'm in no way advocating for its return.
No, but do you have any examples of disputes that were settled? Was turnips an actual example? Or?
No, that's just my appalling lack of historical knowledge, assuming that everything in the past was A, in black and white, and B, about turnips. I'm pretty sure the Boer War was fought over turnips.
The Great Turnip War of 1682 was ironically not about turnips.
Or in that year.
Yeah.
Happened in the year 3000. They just thought it sounded better. It was mostly things about infidelity. Like from what I read, it was if the woman is wronged, she can ask for this duel.
That's quite a risk though. So a woman goes, all right, I've been wronged, so I'm now going to challenge him to combat, where admittedly he is handicapped, but still could beat me. She has to be very sure that this slight was worth the risk.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes it's a pride thing, and sometimes everyone's got a hill they've got to die on, and sometimes that hill is next to a small hole with a with a man with a wooden club in it. Yeah. From what I read, then the practice of making it a fight to the death was discontinued. I think for the same reasons that you pointed out, that there were very few things that were worth doing that over, and it was more just a public spectacle meant to shame the man. I know what you mean,
because I mean most arguments that me and my girlfriend get into are usually just silly misunderstandings where one of us has overreacted to something the other one's said or not said, or completely read it the wrong way. In no circumstance, looking back at it, have I thought this would have been better with a fight to the death.
Yeah, when you're sleeping on the sofa because you forgot some important date, then you're not lying there thinking, I wish I could beat her with a wooden club in a hole.
No, that has never been a option.
And that is just one of the many factors that has led to the long-term nature of your...
That's how baseball was made.
I mean...
I actually reckon that might have been it. She threw a rock at the man and he batted it away, and they were just like, yeah, we should make this into a sport.
There was applause.
Yeah.
Thought, hang on a minute, we can sell tickets to this. And then you have to start contriving. You slept with my...
turnip.
I mean, it's sort of part baseball, part Jerry Springer, I caught my wife having sex with a turnip. Let's play ball.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's my first topic. Now, Chris, what's yours?
Well, I'm going to take you a bit further back in time to ancient Greece, where we spend an inordinate amount of this podcast considering we know very little about it. Remember a few weeks ago we mentioned that there was a ancient Greek dude who died laughing at his own jokes? I have actually done some follow-up research, and I have some excellent news. He was called Chris, which meant he could have fit in on this podcast. He was called Chrysippus with a Y, so C-H-R-Y. So he's a bit of a hipster. He could have joined the Chris and Chris podcast and fit in perfectly well. I mean, he would have spoken Greek, so... Well, you might have understood him a bit.
Yeah, I would have got... If he, exclusively quoted from Xenophon, then I'll be fine.
The joke he apparently died laughing at was really quite crap. Which is a bit disappointing. He watched a donkey eat some figs and then cried out, "Now give the donkey a drink of pure wine to wash down the figs," and then laughed himself to death.
I think we can both be accused of laughing too much at our own jokes, and...
Oh, yeah.
And if
we're yet to die.
I think that's the most realistic way we'll go out, is just dying after laughing at our own joke that wasn't too funny. That is poor. Maybe you had to be there, and as he was, and then suddenly wasn't. That's not even like a bad dad joke or a bad Christmas cracker joke. That's just...
No, this was pointing at something and saying, get that donkey drunk.
Which I'm sure the donkey would have been in favour of.
Staying in ancient Greece, would you believe me if I said that the longest... I don't know why I'm asking if you believe me, because I'm just going to tell you this anyway. That the longest record in the Olympic history lasted for 2,000 years.
What, for most naked dudes wrestled?
Okay, sorry. That one's still going. So it took between 152 BC all the way until the 2016 Olympics in Rio for the record of most individual gold medals to be broken.
Wow.
So Michael Phelps is the current owner of that record, but it was Leonidas of Rhodes, presumably the second most famous Leonidas in ancient Greece. You are right, did like to do all this stuff naked. According to this painting, he seemed to do it with his wang flapping out.
As was the custom of the day,
As
to be
was the
fair.
custom.
It wasn't,
Exactly.
it wasn't a perverted thing, it's more social etiquette.
Yeah, although, interestingly, he did 3 events in each Olympic. So he did 4 Olympics in his lifetime. His last one when he was 36 years old. But he did 3 events and won all 3 of them every time. He won 2 sprints, so one of 200 metres and one about 400 metres, which he did as you say, in the buff. Then they also had a race where they ran in full battle armour.
Did he still have his wang out for that? It was like a crotchless...
It would have been, that would probably chafe a little. Well, they're actually saying that most armour is just like a helmet, a breastplate, and a shield. So, he could quite conceivably still do that with his wang out. Speaking of Leonidas and wangs, don't worry, I have a segue here.
Hell of a segue.
But I'm sure you've seen 300.
Yep, the accurate documentary.
Apparently, the director, his initial plan was for them to do in all the fighting and all that in the nude. Because they wear those like little leather Y fronts and the cape.
The sort of testicle pouch.
Yeah, he apparently had to be talked into that because his initial plan was just the capes.
I mean, that's the problem with art. It's what your muse tells you versus what your financial backers are much more firmly telling you. More historically accurate to have them jungle rod free. But would the film have done as well if Jared Butler's roast dinner
glistening torso?
Oh, we went. His glistening torso was available to see. It was his Michael Phelps and 2 pool. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm running out of euphemistic descriptions for cock and balls. We're done meat and veg. What was other hoplite and shield carrier? I don't know.
Yeah, spear and shield.
His cannon and balls.
Yes.
His Torval and Deans. No, that doesn't work. Anyway, yeah, like, would the film have, or would it have set a precedent that it done so well that all films, even if it wasn't historically accurate, follow in suit? If they did,
so they did like Lincoln, but everybody was naked.
No, just Lincoln's got his cock out. And no one mentions it.
Just the top hat.
Yeah, and a smaller top hat, just resting. And he's a method actor.
I'm not even sure Daniel Day-Lewis could pull this off,
so to speak. Yeah, can he, as someone who's so committed to his roles, remain tumescent for the whole of the filming? But just Pride and Prejudice done, absolutely word for word according to the book, but everyone's got the bits out. It's not obscene. It's not. It's not it's not pornographic. It's just casually lower half
casual nudity.
Yeah, just take the stigma out of it. New Star Wars, an interesting threat of what lightsabers can do.
Ooh, nobody wants to watch that.
No one wants to, but I demand Hollywood make these changes. When people push for diversity, it's not normally about getting the cock out.
Well, free the cock.
No, restrain the cock, clothe the cock.
You've changed your tune in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, I really bailed on that pitch meeting. Gentlemen, we demand that every film... Actually, now that I say it out loud, let's keep...
That's even less than before.
Yeah, everyone just covered in suits of armour all the time. It does. Yeah.
I don't know where to go from here.
No, but it does make you think about famous scenes. Just if they'd done it slyly, so
they were naked.
No, not naked. I'm not. I'm not being pornographic. Just from the waist down, but just gradually. So like Titanic, very moving scene. Like floating on the raft, and he just pans. You got the underwater shot, and he just happens to have his cock out.
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
Just no.
I've really, and I hate to use this phrase, flip-flopped about this this idea over the course of the last 2 minutes. I don't know if it's a brilliant idea or a terrible idea. I mean, obviously I know it's a terrible idea. And yet...
You want to believe it's a brilliant idea.
Would E.T. have been better if E.T...
The glowing cock.
Yeah, it's not phoning home that you do with that thing.
More like boning home. Am I right? What? Sorry.
I mean, inappropriate because it's a kid's film. Have some decorum, Chris. Don't lower the tone with your cheap smut.
You're right. This was meant to be tasteful nudity.
I mean, we started talking about philosophers.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Well, we got bored and we just went to our...
default joke.
Our screensaver.
Our safety net.
Our true north. Our rigid north. I mean, we are.
It happened again. I just ended it with a sigh.
It's because we're technically grown up. We both delight and disappoint ourselves every time we hit record. It's just like click.
That is true.
Hey, here's this interesting about history. No, you're going to talk about cocks. I mean, men are children, aren't they? We're just idiotic children.
Oh, I'm just a tall child. In fact, sometimes I wonder if I'm actually an adult and not just like a couple of kids sitting on each other's shoulders wearing a giant coat.
I mean,
it's a weird thing to worry about, but it does enter my brain sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, schizophrenia is normally mental, not physical. You're not, divided between personalities of two children in an overcoat. I mean, at the very least, if you're wearing an overcoat. Do you own an overcoat? If not, you're probably not two children sitting on each other's not each other's shoulders, on one shoulders.
Yeah, it's probably a safe bet.
Probably. I think, I'm not a great thinker. I think this is you've brought me a problem that's fairly easy to diagnose.
Oh, yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we can put this one to bed. I am not two children in an overcoat.
You're just
Thank you.
You're one idiot with no overcoat.
Exactly, it's far too hot to wear an overcoat today, so...
That's not the reason why.
That's how I can be sure.
It's more because you can look down and not see your legs on a child's shoulders.
The fact that I have control of my legs. Yeah. What were we talking about? The show was ancient Greece.
No, we solved it. We covered it all.
We solved ancient Greece.
Yeah. Take that one off. God, we're good.
Yeah. Another issue solved. Okay, Chris, so now that we've finished in ancient Greece, what's your second topic?
There are some things about our bodies that I think it's just better to not think about.
Given where these topics tend to go, I'm a bit worried now.
Bear with me. Before today, I'd never worried if I was two children in an overcoat, and now you planted that doubting seed. But stuff like the fact that your intestines are constantly writhing and contracting inside you, it's just a weird thing to think about.
Oh, that's gross.
Or the fact there's a muscle in your mouth at all times to help push food around, also weird. Or the fact that over 85% of all humans would have feathers, beaks and wattles if only they happened to have been born as turkeys. It's really scary stuff. But another creepy thing about your body, not yours particularly, but all of ours, is that saliva is just filtered blood, which is a weird thing to think about when you consider your mouth's full of it at all times, except when it's full of gravy or lasagna or pennies.
Or if you have dry mouth.
Which is probably more likely than having a mouthful of pennies. I don't know why I brought that up. But did you know saliva contains a painkiller 6 times stronger than morphine, but our bodies don't produce a lot of it because otherwise we'd just be completely blitzed out all the time.
Why? As in, because if you break your leg, you can't just spit on your leg and be like, oh, well, I feel much better now.
Well, you can. You just might not feel better about it. You go, oh, I've just spat on myself.
Now I'm in pain and covered in saliva.
I don't know. I guess it makes sense. It helps keep things clean, I guess. I don't know if you can tell that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
How does a painkiller help keep things clean? Sorry, have I ruined the premise by asking you a follow-up question?
Please don't make me admit that I know absolutely nothing about science. I just thought it was interesting, and maybe everyone knew this, and I'm just bluffing my way through life.
I did not know this, so I can only assume you're correct, even though you just said you don't know anything about science.
So the painkiller in question is called opiophine. It also contains an antidepressant compound, which is why it's been theorized that so many of us deal with stress by comfort eating, because it obviously when you eat you produce more saliva, and if the more you produce, then the better you feel for a bit. The other reason is that it makes you feel full and warm, which can replicate the feelings of physical contact, because physical contact apparently is something that people like.
But physical contact doesn't feel like being full unless you eat somebody, which I don't, because I'm not a cannibal. That's one thing I am. I may not be clear if I'm two children in an overcoat. Definitely clear that I'm not a cannibal. Why did I feel like I'm protesting too much. I feel if anything I've just raised suspicions.
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other for a long time. At no point have I thought you might A, be a cannibal, or be two children in an overcoat. But you seem really fixated on both, and I'm starting to think, are you two cannibal children in an overcoat?
Maybe they ate the original. Why am I going along with this?
Maybe you started off that way, and the stronger ate the other and became you. Yeah. And you don't remember.
No, wait, what? No.
Because
I can't go along with this.
You start, yeah, that sounds plausible. Wait, no, it's absolute bollocks.
Wait a second, no, just no. So, cannibalism is good, is what we're saying.
Bad.
Oh, bad. Sorry.
No,
yeah,
bad.
But does that mean spitting on people which is often seen as like the ultimate disrespect and insult, could actually be a way of saying feel better? Oh, you look sad. Have some opium.
I think get their consent first. Do it in a mutually agreed scenario, perhaps during. How am I going to phrase this? More exertive lovemaking, if that is something that perhaps people are into. I think don't do it to strangers. Don't
spit on strangers.
Not for the express purpose of trying to make them get high. If they've done something awful, like buy sparkling water, then maybe. But as a general rule, as this podcast is meant to be educational as well as entertaining. It can be morally informative as well. And I'd like just to say, for the record, maybe don't spit on people. Just no matter your intentions.
Yeah.
Unless, as stated, as part of a clearly consented thing.
If you're running around a stadium in the buff.
Yeah. No, why would you want that? Like, with that height and the experience, you've already become, as far as you know, the greatest Olympian ever, or at least for the next 2,000 years, and someone just gobs on you, and you think, well, this has really brought me down.
And then you go, but now I feel a bit high. It doesn't work like this, does it?
No, I mean, I was really relying on you as the science correspondent to sort of really jump in and either go, really, that science seems bollocks, or, yeah, and here's how and why it works.
I'm a different science person, though. I'm not a human science person. Humans confuse me.
You're two children in an overcoat sort of scientist. Not that children aren't human.
We need our mutual doctor friend. He would probably be able to tell us we're stupid and why are we bothering him? He's actually got lives to save. Get a real job, guys.
I mean, I don't know if it would bother him mid-surgery. Just, hey, knock, knock. First of all, how's it going?
It's like, have you been at any painkillers yet? Be like, no. Try spitting on him. just go with it. See what happens. Guys, please leave the surgery.
Guys, not at work. Spit on me in private, like we always do. But it did make me think.
End of sentence.
It did make me think. And now, a minute of silence to contemplate on the lessons we've learned. No, that'll be awful podcasting. I think it's weird that bodies are capable of some things, but not necessarily at the most helpful times. So, like, when you're nervous and you need to talk, then that's the time when your body decides, oh, I'm going to make your mouth really, really dry, so I can't, so it's harder to speak. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I don't understand these fight or flight responses, because most of them seem to just turn you into an absolute quivering wreck that will definitely get eaten by a lion. You know, like when you get nervous about something and it's supposedly like your fight or flight instinct sort of like kicking it, you know, like when you got to give a presentation on something, and instead of you going into like kick-ass mode and being like, I'm like ready to fight or run or, you know, and getting all that boost, it's more just your legs turn to jelly and your mouth dries up. Your heart starts beating irregularly. This does not seem like an evolutionary advantage.
If your body is capable of handling stress in a way that doesn't, like, react that way, why doesn't it do that when you actually need it to? Like, you know, if it's capable of making painkillers stronger than morphine in small enough doses that it doesn't get you high, then why can't it, like you say, why doesn't spitting on a wound, like, actually make the pain go away if it's capable of that? I mean, these are just questions that clearly neither of us can answer. But it is,
anyway, maybe like somebody in the comments or listening, emailing, whatever, might shed us some light.
So there we go. That's the second of my two topics. Chris, what is your second and final topic for us?
Do you remember the
Alamo?
Musical artist Akon?
I mean, my popular knowledge is limited. Did he do Lonely? It's like a squeaky...
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yes, I'm relevant
big in the
In
The
2005.
mid-2000s. Yeah, exactly. That was it. And Locked Up, they were his big ones. Well, apparently, he is also still a producer, so whilst he's not been in front of the microphone for a while, he is still making money. But anyway, that's not the point. Because the point is, he has decided that he is planning to build a futuristic city in Senegal based entirely around a new cryptocurrency which he has named after himself, which will be called Akon, and the city would be called Akon Crypto City. So there's not much you can say to this. It's just like you'd think it was a supervillain plan.
It's good to have dreams. What I might suggest to Mr. Akon, I don't know if that's his first or second name, is be a bit more realistic about your ambitions. Like, look, we all want to found a city based on ourselves, but does he have the resources to do that? Is
No, but
Akon...
apparently he has been gifted by the president of Senegal some land to found his city, and he describes it as the real life Wakanda. Sorry, this might go over your pop culture head. The fictional country from Black Panther,
Which is a film.
Exactly.
Yep. I've seen posters for it.
Ooh, wow. Finger on the pulse. But the weird thing is, a few years back...
Oh, that wasn't the weird thing.
The other weird thing is a few years back, he founded a sort of charity project to try and provide electricity to all of Africa.
Right.
Mission
Yeah, it's a
goal
great
and
noble
all that.
cause, yeah.
But I remember the internet going crazy and being like... Because all the sort of promotional materials were like, we're going to provide 600 million homes with electricity within like 4 years. You know, some ludicrously short timescale, and everyone, because the internet seems to just go crazy and just follow. Some people, they'll decide that whatever they say is gospel, and some people will decide whatever they say is false, and it doesn't really matter. So people going like, oh, how come all these charities have been in Africa for decades and they haven't done anything, but now Akon's going to solve it all in 4 years? Like, what are these charities doing? And all taking his word for it that he would, with no sort of plan, provide electricity within within a few short years. I mean, maybe eventually it will, but it was such a ludicrously short timescale. And now again, it's just that. So there'll be a brand new city made out in the middle of nowhere, which will have all these futuristic things, including a completely new currency, which will somehow have to integrate with the rest of Senegal, because as far as I'm aware, it's not becoming an independent state. I mean, it's great. I mean, I want to get to the stage of fame where I can just make random declarations with no real way of following it through. I will build Christopia on the moon.
I mean, you can do that now and just shout it in a crowded coffee shop.
It's not the same.
No, I know. Like,
nobody listens.
Here's the thing, though. It's like providing electricity to all of Africa is a massive good goal, but it's like you say, like start small. Can he accomplish that with one town, then one city, then one district, then one blah blah blah. I'm much more interested in the details. So it's like when people say a futuristic society. Okay, what does that actually look like? How far in the future?
Wakanda.
I mean, we've all got big dreams, like being financially stable or emotionally available or physically desirable. But, sometimes we've just got to face the facts and hit speed dial for our local chicken cottage. And I just... achievable goals with defined small steps seems...
Boring.
Boring,
I also want to get to the stage where I can just name things after myself and everybody sort of just has to go along with it. Like he's called it Akon. I harbour delusions of grandeur.
I mean, if you were going to name a single product after yourself, what would the Chris...
Oh, I'd have a city, and I'd call it city or country, and I'd call it Christopia. It's like a dystopia, but it's a me and utopia.
Oh, I get in on this.
So I've already got the slogans.
Does that happen to, like, 3 cities just become available, and they just shop around for, anyone want to rule and name this? We sort of built the city, there's no people here yet.
Well, we built it on rock and roll, and then it turns out that's a terrible foundation.
Yeah, what you want is sort of earth and concrete.
Yeah.
A man can survive on juicy riffs for only so long, as my grandfather used to say. He was very ill towards the end.
He didn't get enough of the riffs to sustain him.
Please, just one more riff. That'll do.
7 Nation Army. Just something with a bass line.
Although, most people don't know that it's actually a guitar that plays that main famous riff, and it's not a bass at all. It's just a low-tuned guitar down to open A.
Those were his final words.
Sorry, I'm getting off the point. I should have really thought of something more concise to say. I'm rambling, but, anyway.
Just see the light now. I think this is the stairway to heaven. I finally understand what it was referring to.
If anyone was going to sort of transcribe my final words, maybe cut out all the bit about Seven Nation Army. It doesn't really lead anywhere. Just remember me more profoundly.
I think I'm knocking on heaven's door. I don't fear the Reaper.
My grandchild, I want you to found a city and call it Paradise City. No, I'm going to call it Christopia. That's an awful name. Whatever you do, don't build it on juicy riffs, no matter how juicy and tempting they may be. Right, I'm definitely going to die now.
Oh, is he dead?
Nope, still here.
I want to say moving swiftly on, but I've got nowhere to take us to. The metaphor plane has crashed and burned.
Well, good luck, Akon. I hope it all goes well.
Please invite us round.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, on the very small off chance that Akon spends his time listening to the ramblings of two insane British people.
If he's listening this far, then he'll heard us just slag him off from the beginning. Goes,
we didn't slag him off as such. We just expressed our doubts.
Sluggish doubts.
Yeah.
Akon, if you've listened this far, I hope it all goes well. I would just think small and grow from there. Be proud of the hard work it takes to get to those small accomplishments, rather than being so drawn by a sort of impossible dream that you spend your life chasing that. And I know nothing about your music, but good luck with that as well.
I'm sure if he's listening, he'd take this pep talk to heart. Be like, I'm a multi-millionaire with several number one hits, and now I'm building an empire outside of music. But thank you, random man. This is the pep talk I needed to keep going.
I'm feeling a bit down despite all my wealth and success. Maybe I'll try a new podcast. Maybe who knows? Where next inspiration will come. I'll get about 25 minutes in just to see if I'm mentioned, and I am. Thanks for that pep talk, you nasally ineffectual Brit.
What were we talking about? Let's just put this out of his misery at this stage.
We are now going to hit stop, which is
let's take this podcast out the back and just shoot it.
You're listening to us about to mercy kill this conversation. Just any last words? Well, actually, now you mention it, you missed.
I think it's time to say goodbye. If you've been listening this long, God help you. God help us. What are we doing here? I'm so lost. Sorry, I just started staring to the abyss then. So I'd just like to say thank you for listening, and goodbye from me.
And sorry from me, but also goodbye. Weird one this week.
Oh, it's been so bizarre. I have no idea. I can't even remember what we were talking about. I had the list of things we were going to talk about, and I don't think we did. I feel like we learned something about ourselves, though, such as I am not two small children in an overcoat. I'm not sure I learned that, actually.
I
feel like
you discovered it. You discovered it for the first time, and despite all my counter arguments, I don't know if you're fully convinced either way. Whatever the case, it's deeply upsetting as an insight to your psyche, or psyches, depending on if you turn out to be two children or not.
Oh, it would change my entire life.
Certainly your wardrobe.
Yeah.
So here's that sort of, trademark snappy outro we're quickly becoming so good at.
I always just want to do jazz hands, and it just does not work in an audio-only medium. So unless I just say, jazz hands.
Or find a sort of audible onomatopoeic word for jazz hands.
No.
Not what I thought you were going to go with. I would have gone with, ba-da!
Oh yeah, that makes way more sense. Skibbity skib bib skibbity skibbity Shall we end this? Goodbye.
Yeah. Goodbye, and sorry. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cooking with Grief. If you enjoyed it, make sure to recommend it to a friend. And if you hated it, then please recommend it to your worst enemy. If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us cookingwithgrief@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter, that's @cookingwithgrief, with no G on cooking, because we're cool. It'd be great if you subscribe to our channel, that way you'll never miss a new episode. And we'd love to get your feedback, so please leave a comment below telling us all about the things we got wrong. Thank you, Internet. We welcome your indifference and or vitriol.